Aloha and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending where you are. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, joining you from livestream.travel and eTurbo News in Honolulu, Hawaii. Today is Sunday, January 31st, and we'll be talking about the Caribbean. With me is Peter Tarlow, and I'm in College Station, in Texas, and Coyote.
Early in the morning in Hawaii.
Early in the morning. Just got my Starbucks. But before we start, I wanted to welcome and introduce the Honourable Minister Edmund Bartlett from Jamaica. The minister has been outspoken many times in the world, has been leading his global initiative in regards to safety and security, the Global Resilience Center, and also is minister probably through the worst challenge anyone can imagine for a country in the Caribbean, because Jamaica and many other countries, also St. Kitts, where Coyote is from, is dependent in a lot of ways, I think, on travel and tourism. So recently, the Canadian government, just 2 days ago actually, put additional restrictions on travel to the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, they're discouraging travel to the Caribbean and make it literally impossible, what again cuts a good percentage of the market for some of the destinations in the Caribbean. And Minister Bartlett will give his point of view from the Jamaica perspective, and please listen to the Honourable Minister.
It's always a difficult response to make when countries have to take hard decisions with regards to their own border management as a key tool of managing the pandemic. The unintended consequence of these measures, of course, are that small economies such as ours that are highly tourism dependent are hurt and hurt badly. So we are looking at a cessation of flow from Canada into the Caribbean, where Canadian market represents, pretty close to 20% of the flow in the areas, including Mexico and the Dominican Republic. In the case of Jamaica, it's about 15% of our visitor flow. So it means a lot to us, and it's very painful. In fact, what it is suggesting is that we've lost the winter season completely, which is the strongest period for foreign exchange generation for countries like Jamaica. And the result, of course, is going to be a summer of great discontent, as we struggle to see how these borders can be reopened and cause some movement of traffic in our area. The ability of many countries to survive this difficult period is at question. I think fortunately for Jamaica, we are in a better financial position to sort of weather through and be still there for the global community after summer and into the winter of 21-22. But how many other countries can, and particularly those in the Caribbean area, the smaller countries that have less resources and whose reserves are even less. So these are hard, difficult positions, but we recognize that it is the right of countries to make strong decisions in relation to their own management of the pandemic and to safeguard themselves and their citizens. That right we can't deny. We only indicate that the unintended consequences of these decisions are painful.
At Sandals, your health and safety is our top priority, which is why we created our Platinum Protocol of Cleanliness. Now, you can have the peace of mind of knowing that while you're creating your wedding celebration, we're taking care of the rest. Sandals was built on dreams. Dreams of romantic escapes, endless possibilities, magical moments, and new beginnings. At Sandals, dreams of happily ever after still come true with a free wedding or a fully customizable one. You can feel safe saying I do to a wedding beneath a gazebo in a lush tropical garden, or walking down a white sand aisle with an impossibly turquoise sea as your backdrop, or even floating above the sea in an open-air, over-the-water chapel. Our venues are found in wide-open spaces, nature-made for love to blossom. Best of all, even your friends and family who can't travel with you can still be a part of your special day, because Sandals is offering live stream services of your wedding ceremony. And while we've led the industry in health and safety protocols for nearly 40 years, our resorts are even safer and more romantic than ever before, offering you a wedding free of worries and filled with love. That includes reducing the capacity of our venues and putting more physical distance between your guests. Your guests will still have a picture-perfect view of the ceremony, but they'll be seated further apart. At your reception, instead of tables for 8, we'll have the same size tables, but only seat 6 guests per table. And we've eliminated buffets and specialty food stations, so all food will be plated and served by Sandals staff wearing masks. At Sandals, the honeymoon of your dreams begins the moment you say, "I do." And we are once again setting a new standard of excellence with our Platinum Protocol of Cleanliness to ensure it's unforgettable and worry-free. With extensive research from local ministries and health officials, the Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization, we've instituted advanced hygiene practices across 18 touchpoints. A triple check system that includes inspecting, cleaning, and sanitizing hard surfaces and common areas every 20 minutes. Adding auto-dispensing hand sanitizing stations throughout the resort. To ensure the utmost safety, Sandals will be using hospital-grade disinfectants, electrostatic sprayers for advanced cleaning, UV lighting equipment to inspect cleanliness, and air duct sanitization for each room before every guest's arrival. We've gone so far as to steam clean and sanitize carpeting and flooring prior to arrivals, and placing personal hand sanitizers in every guest room. For added safety, all staff members are required to wear protective face gear at all times. And from now on, guests will be able to begin their Sandals experience before even leaving their house. Guests can check in online at home, which lets them bypass the front desk and go directly to their rooms. Stricter physical distancing protocols have also been put in place in every part of the resort. In addition, all of our spa facilities and sports equipment will be sanitized before and after use with hospital-grade disinfectants. We're also committed to providing a dedicated quality inspection team at each resort to ensure strict compliance and implementation of these safety protocols, so that our guests can enjoy a 5-star luxury-included vacation that's 100% worry-free. We can't wait to help make your dreams come true with a destination wedding and honeymoon at Sandals. And while you're creating 1,000 worry-free moments, we'll take care of the rest.
All right, we're back after hearing from the Honourable Minister Bartlett from Jamaica, and thank you for participating. I'd like to give the microphone to Peter Tarlow, our co-host in College Station, Texas. Good morning or good afternoon, Peter.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I think Minister Bartlett's statement was really important. As many people know, of course, the United States is the #1 provider of tourism to the Caribbean, but Canada is a major contributor to the economic well-being of the Caribbean. And so the Canadian decision has made life a lot more difficult for the Caribbean countries. But there's a second side to that, because not only is it that Canada is now making it very almost impossible to travel to the Caribbean, should you get to Canada, they are going to make it as difficult for you to get back. And of course, one of the things in the Caribbean, and that's what we're going to now discuss, is the other side of the coin. When you get to the Caribbean, in many of the places, you have to also isolate. You have to go into quarantine. And so we have with us a really interesting person. He's been studying in Jamaica. I think he just got his master's degree. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. His name is Kayode Sutton. We have been friends for a while. We've never really had the opportunity to meet each other in person, but we are virtual friends via the internet and WhatsApp. And Kayode has been studying in Jamaica and just got home to St. Kitts and Zappo. He's in 14 days of quarantine. So he's home, but he's not really home. And so I'd be really interesting to hear what it's like for you, Kayode, trying to, you're almost home. Tell us about your quasi-arrival home into St. Kitts.
Yeah, and maybe
Right,
before we start, maybe we can explain St. Kitts. There are a lot of listeners all over the world here in many countries of the globe. Maybe you can start in telling us where St. Kitts is.
Yes, and where it is. You know,
Okay.
so just tell us a little bit about your country.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. Yes, indeed, we have met, but yet we have not met. That is with
Yes.
Dr. Tarlow. Of course, you know, virtual cooperation, coordination is a way of the world from 2020. So I guess it's you know, I can say it's in place. Now, I must state though that I'm not an authority to speak on behalf of the government. I'm not an authority to speak on behalf of the tourism industry here, but I am a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. And like Dr. Tarlow said, I've been studying in Jamaica now for well over a year. And after my studies, I left for Jamaica in 2019. And the whole of 2020, I was in Jamaica when the pandemic started. Now, coming back home after the pandemic, after completing my studies and pandemic in place, is a totally different experience. I am home, but yet too far from home. Preparing to come home was really a challenge. You had to go online to fill out certain immigration forms and custom forms, and also to get permission to return home. I had to get permission to return home to my country. So without that approval, I could not board the aircraft. The airlines would not allow me to board. So all that said, I got a negative COVID-19 test and had to upload the tests to get an approval, got the approval, came home. And of course, the whole COVID-19 protocol that is in place, you follow it, sanitize, you get health check, public health check at the airport. And then they have designated transports within the tourism sector. So designated taxis transfer individuals from the airport to the locations for quarantine, 14 days quarantine, which would have been pre-arranged before you arrive on island. So I had to arrange that in addition to my travel arrangement. It's part of the arrangement. And I had to put down my credit card details where they're going to charge me over $1,200. So I have to bear that cost personally, over $1,200 for the 14 days, which does not include feeding. It's just the room, and does not include everything else. So the taxi now transports you to the location, and I was transported to Royal St. Kitts. That is where I'm at, and so that's where I'm quarantined. And the process is that you're shown your room, and they give you the guidelines, what is applicable, and you have a wristband like this, which is danger red. So nobody is to come in contact with me, and they show me.
Like you're a prisoner.
Yeah, it's like being in prison. Where I can go, where I can't go, and all that, and making arrangements for feeding. If I want to eat at the hotel, then I have to make that arrangement and pay for that extra. That is not inclusive in the $1,200 for the quarantine period. If I make alternative arrangements for feeding, that will have to be borne by me, and then the food is going to be dropped in a particular location at the hotel, and then I will be called from the front desk to go there and pick it up. So I have no contact. It's contactless with the rest of the populace. So families cannot see you even though you're on island. Friends cannot see you even though you're on island. So it's complete isolation. It's like being in prison. However, I understand where St. Kitts is coming from, but I don't know how sustainable this is going to be, because just driving through from the airport to the isolation center yesterday, you can see that there's no activities whatsoever. And I had a conversation with the taxi driver who told me that a lot of the taxi operators are out of business for well over a year. Most of the companies where they hire purchase their vehicles have repossessed the vehicles. So it must be enormous hardship on the citizens and the tourism sector. So the situation with Canada introducing this harsh conditions on their citizens or anyone who travels to the Caribbean as well is going to even exacerbate the problems on the economy. I was just about 15 minutes ago, I was looking at the on TV. I saw the National Emergency Operating Center, that is the NEOC on St. Kitts, which is the center that is responsible for COVID-19 task force. They were given the update, the weekly update, and what came out of the briefing was that from the inception of COVID, from the lockdown, and from the time, because there was a period that St. Kitts was completely locked down, I think from March last year until the 31st of October last year, there was zero, there was no commercial activities going on. There was no flights, no cruise ships coming into St. Kitts. Borders were opened on the 31st of October last year. And then from there on, they saw a significant increase in the number of locals, nationals, trying to return home who were stuck overseas. However, they have since seen a significant decline, I guess perhaps because of the quarantine procedures and the cost that they have to bear. So they have seen a significant decline in the number of nationals wanting to come back, and also tourists, because for a tourist to come to St. Kitts and they have to quarantine for 14 days, how many weeks holidays do they have?
So if you were a Canadian, you would arrive in St. Kitts, you'd have to quarantine for 14 days. Let's say you have a week afterwards in St. Kitts, and then you have to go back to Canada and be quarantined again. So assuming you could even get there, you would end up with maybe 17 or 18 days of quarantine. Basically, you're paying to go to prison. And if it's $1,200 plus food, and Canada charges you $2,000 plus food, it's going to cost you $4,000 approximately to go to prison.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm just wondering, you said bringing food. I'm just curious, since you are from St. Kitts, is your family allowed to cook for you and leave the food someplace so you can eat home cooked food?
Yes, you can have home cooked food. The family can cook, and they'll bring the food in a container and put it, drop it off. There's a drop-off point within the facility, the resort facility, and then the front desk is going to call, and then you go there and pick it up. So there is no contact. Laundry service and all that has to be pre-arranged. I think we get that done. So there's no contact to the outside world, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you mentioned the taxi driver. Now, the taxi driver is an immediate contact you had. How is this taxi driver protected from you when people think you may have COVID?
Very good question. I was totally shocked to see the length that they've gone to try to protect the driver. The taxi are there are a lot of mini buses, like the Toyota buses and mini buses that sit about 14 passengers. Yes. Not necessarily that you have to fill it up with people, but what they've done is they've sealed off the cubicle where the driver is from the rest of the
passengers.
Passenger section in the back. So the driver you have no contact with the driver. The only contact you have with the driver is when you're paying the driver. So I had to pay him cash, but he has latest gloves on. He has on his mask. So he's in the cab, in the driver's cab, where, you know, in the front where he's driving, and I'm isolated from him in the back because there's a latest kind of seal that they have, you know, to separate us. And no air conditioning is used in the taxi. They have the windows wide open, so I'm not that hot. But I can talk to him, and he can also respond. I can hear him. So, like I said, the only contact we had was when I was going to pay him. And then interestingly, when I got in the taxi after I put my luggage in there, I saw him sanitizing the latex gloves that he had on. And he also sanitized my hands. I had to sanitize my hands before he drove off from the airport. And when I got to the hotel, they sanitized my hand again. I got my luggage, and then they sanitized my luggage before they pushed it into the hotel. So it's, you know, it's really, really a demanding, it's a demanding process. However, St. Kitts and Nevis, I think, is the best island in the world. There's no doubt about it. That's my home. It's the most beautiful place you can come to, you can enjoy. It's heaven on earth, St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm sure Dr. Tarlow has visited St. Kitts before, so he can testify to that.
Yes, it's a very beautiful place. As is Jamaica, but matter of fact, the whole Caribbean is quite beautiful. And of course, having you in St. Kitts makes St. Kitts even more beautiful. But how would you compare your experience leaving Jamaica and coming to St. Kitts? Do you see a difference from one island to another? Were the Jamaican
Absolutely.
Was it a little freer in Jamaica, or is it same types of protocols?
No, Jamaica was freer. I was in Jamaica for over a year. I had the freedom to move around. And I see, you know, Jamaica is freer. Jamaica is significantly bigger than St. Kitts, and the population is much, much larger. I mean,
Sure.
There's over 3 million people in Jamaica, and it's just over 50,000 people in St. Kitts and Nevis. So Jamaica is freer. So it was, you know, it was a complete difference between what takes place in Jamaica and what is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's like nothing is happening here, but in Jamaica, it's not as evident that, you know, COVID is there, because it's still the hustle and bustle of a city in Kingston. You know, businesses are happening and everything is going on in Jamaica. At the airport in Jamaica also, I don't know what it is like to check in here, but since I only came out of customs on my arrival, but in Jamaica, you just wear your mask when you're going into the airport, and they check your temperature, and you can go in and you check in, and you have the freedom of movement around the airport. You just keep on your mask. The restaurants were open, the shops were open. You can, you know, just like normal times.
Yes.
But the only difference is that, you know, you hear over the information, the airport information service, that, you know, you should sanitize, you should maintain social distancing and keep on your mask. And that was it.
It's really interesting, Juergen, the number of differences between countries. As you know, in the United States, they're talking today about no one will be allowed to take even a domestic flight without getting a COVID test right before getting on the plane. Yeah, and the airlines are really scared. That could hurt them tremendously.
Yeah, and I'd like to.
Let me just add a quick one. I had the same experience because I came through Miami, from Kingston to Miami. Yes. So I had to present my negative COVID test in Miami as well.
Now, let me just give you some statistics I looked up. First of all, I think we haven't really clarified for everyone to understand where St. Kitts is. St. Kitts is an island. Actually, there are two islands that form, if I'm not correct here, St. Kitts and Nevis, what is one country under one jurisdiction in the Caribbean. And I think you can probably travel from one island to another very freely, like you do here in Hawaii when you go to Maui, from Maui to Oahu or any of the other islands. Now, what is very interesting is the statistics in regards to COVID. I'm absolutely amazed looking at the numbers. And of course, you can say St. Kitts has, from what I see here, 53,418 people. It's a small country. But if you compare the numbers per million, and these are really the numbers you need to compare to understand how significant the virus is spreading in areas or in countries, St. Nevis and St. Kitts is absolutely amazing. You have 693 cases out of a million. And there are not a million people, but I'm saying this, the number out of a million. To give you some comparison here, Canada, we talked about Canada, has 20,512. The United per million.
Right.
The United States, I don't even want to say it, has 80,485. And this number goes on and on and on. If you look at Germany, for example, you have 26,985. And if you look at Jamaica, you have 5,273, what is extremely low compared to what it is in the United States, but it's 10 times as high as it is in St. Kitts. Now,
yes.
and of course,
so you're really safe in St. Kitts.
Yeah, and of course, what I looked up, it's important for me here in Hawaii, that's where I live. How are the numbers here in Hawaii? And our number is, in the United States, we're the best, but we're 18,802. And again, compare this with 693 in St. Kitts. So I think it's absolutely amazing how your government was able to keep this virus out of your islands and the job they're doing. Is there any tourism at all, or is this the only traffic you have are residents coming back? I mean, how was St. Kitts able to maintain this number? I mean, this is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess because perhaps, like I said again, I'm not, the spokesperson for the government nor the tourism sector, but from observation as a citizen and following what the government has been doing over the last year, I think that they've done significantly well. They took control of the situation earlier on. They're using the science to apply the protocols that has yielded positive results for the country. They have not been relentless in their efforts to enforce quarantine, compulsory isolation on arrival. I understand that since the ports opened in October of last year, the 31st of October last year, anyone who traveled home had to be quarantined for 14 days, even though you come with a negative COVID-19 test. And to add to that, before you leave quarantine, you have to pay for another test. So you have to take another test to exit the prison, if I must say.
Wow.
Now, do you see any, I'm just curious, do you see any visitors still in St. Kitts? Other hotels open besides for locals coming back like you do and staying in quarantine? Is there any tourism movement of people who have the money and say, we're going to spend the money because this is the place we're going to be safe?
I honestly cannot answer that because I just came in. Yes. And I haven't been able to explore. I just came straight into my room and that's it. Well, I don't know if there's anyone here,
Well, you know what, maybe I think Kayode, you're part of the military, am I correct?
Yes, I'm part of the military.
Yes, so maybe when you get out of prison, quote unquote, and back, we can call you in a week or two and hear about your experiences. And, how does your country look to you a year and a half later in the world of COVID lockdowns? Because that would be fascinating to compare what you knew and what you will see.
Right. I think that would be ideal because, like I said, I didn't see anything. Driving from the airport here yesterday, so I really cannot tell you. However, I'm sure that there will be some people, those who have specific interests or they have something to do here, they probably will come through. And but I'm sure that the number is significantly low. I do not have the figures to say what the effect of COVID has been on the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. But it goes without saying. I mean, you don't need to even look at the figures. You can look around and feel the atmosphere. It's dead.
Yeah.
Now,
And I think he really hit the nail on the head there. Figures tell one story, but people tell another story. And then the story is that I wonder, if Canada is not leading this, and this won't eventually happen to the United States, in Europe will do the same thing. So I saw today that France has closed its borders for anyone other than from the EU. And so again, we're seeing, a real turndown of the tourism industry.
Yes, indeed. And point to note, there has been no death in St. Kitts and Nevis to COVID.
Yes. And
No death.
I can.
And I think at present, there are 35 cases or so.
Yeah, there are 35 cases, no death. I forgot to mention this in the statistics. What is also amazing. Now, I did look up the tourism website for St. Kitts, what you can see at stkittstourism.kn. And if you click on entry requirement, it answers my question. And maybe I can, just for our benefit of our listeners, give you this rundown. Returning nationals, residents, a Caribbean single market economy member, certificates holder, and work permits are required to submit a required form and upload a test. And this is exactly what you, I think, earlier explained. However, visitors are welcome to come to St. Kitts, but with the same or similar very strengthened guidelines. Visitors are right now able to come in and quarantine, and there are 7 resorts, and you probably know them, I don't, but let's mention them here. There's the Bird Rock Apartment Complex, there's the Koi Resort Choreo Collection by Hilton, there's Ocean's Edge, there's the Ocean's Terrace Inn, is it Oali Beach, Potworks, and the Royal St. Kitts Hotels. And when you arrive in St. Kitts, the day 1 to 7, visitors are free to move about the hotel property, and they interact with other guests. They can interact with other guests in the hotel. When they're there 8 to 14 days, visitors will undergo an RT-PCR test. It costs $100. And on day 7, if the traveler's test is negative on day 8, they're allowed through the hotel's tour desk to book selected excursions and access selected destination sites to visit. If they are there 14 days or longer, visitors will need to undergo an RT-PCR test on day 14. And if it's also negative, then visitors are free and they will be allowed to travel within St. Kitts and Nevis. So that's the information I see on the St. Kitts tourism website right now.
Yeah, and that is correct. That is the same information I had access to and the guidelines that I had to follow as well. St. Kitts and Nevis, as you were saying, to give you a quick rundown on St. Kitts and Nevis, Twin Island Federation, St. Kitts is 68 square miles and Nevis is 38 square miles. St. Kitts is about 2.5 hours flight from Miami. St. Kitts is east of Puerto Rico and not too far from Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. It's between the Virgin Islands and Antigua, right there. Is the northernmost, one of the northernmost islands, St. Kitts and Nevis island in the Eastern Caribbean chain of islands. Population, like I mentioned earlier, is about 53,000 people. Significant to St. Kitts and Nevis, historic-wise, there's a lot of history behind St. Kitts and Nevis. You understand that it was the first island that the British landed when they were exploring the Western Hemisphere. Alexander Hamilton, which is the face on the $10 bill, was born in Nevis. He was raised in Nevis. Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd president of the United States, his grandfather's tomb is right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Wow. And the history goes on. Yeah.
Yes, so, as a matter of fact, not only that, but in St. Kitts and Nevis were the first full-time Jewish schools in the Caribbean, and Alexander Hamilton went to one of those schools.
In Nevis, yeah. They had a Jewish community in Nevis. They have a cemetery and all that. Yes. There was some archaeological work that was going on in St. Kitts.
It's become a popular, it used to be or maybe will become again a popular tourism attraction, especially as many people are interested in Alexander Hamilton and his whole life. And that's very much combined with Nevis. So maybe in the post-COVID world, we'll be able to go back and talk about those things.
Yes.
You know, what I find interesting, besides talking about St. Kitts, and I can see the pictures here, it is stunning, it's beautiful. So I just added this to my bucket list. I haven't been there yet, but hopefully after COVID. But what is interesting to see is the pattern. The pattern when it comes to COVID outbreaks on islands. And you can really see and compare any island in the world. Islands are mostly able to protect themselves. Some can do a better job, some the job isn't all that good. But I have to say, compared to just on a quick note here, any islands, except perhaps for one of the very remote Pacific island states where you really don't have tourism, where you cannot get to, St. Kitts seems to be the safest place on earth right now. And so congratulations to your government and to everyone being disciplined to make this happen. It's quite amazing. And this was an amazing, really nice conversation.
Yes, it was.
We should have that again.
So Coyote, when you get out of your quarantine and go back into the Army, take good care of St. Kitts for us. And we're going to be looking forward to coming and visiting you there.
Definitely, sir. And I look forward to talking to you post-quarantine period.
Okay.
And I'll be able to give you full updates as to what is going on within.
Don't get too bored. Stay well. Stay healthy.
Thank you, sir.
All
Thank
right,
you very much for having me, and have a good weekend. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Juergen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.